And welcome to another episode of Hazardous Verbal Waste. I'm your host, Shiro-chan. Today is Sunday, July 21st, 2019. Got a lot of stuff to cover in this episode, so let's get right down to it, shall we? In Yu-Gi-Oh! News, Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise gets new anime series in 2020 for 20th anniversary. Konami revealed during a live stream today at the Jump Victory Carnival 2019 event that the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise will get a new television anime series that will premiere in 2020. The new anime will commemorate the 20th anniversary of the anime franchise. The video, which I will put a link to in the show notes, recaps the 6 previous anime in the franchise and announces the new anime, but does not show any new footage. The video teases the history of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series will change. The tease of the new show starts at 51 minutes and 2 seconds and ends at 52 minutes and 10 seconds. The 6th and most recent anime in the franchise, Yu-Gi-Oh! V-Reigns, premiered in Japan on TV Tokyo and its affiliated networks in May of 2016. Crunchyroll later began streaming the series as it aired. That anime is currently ongoing. Mashiro Hosoda is directing the new anime at Gallop. Shin Yoshida and Kenichi Hara are returning from previous Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime to work on series composition and character design respectively. Masahiro Hikoburo is again handling the dual layout. Yuki Matsuoka, I do apologize, I'm butchering these names, is serving as sound director, and Shinkichi Mitsumune is composing the music. I'm excited for a new series. I hope, unlike previous new series, it doesn't bring with it a totally different summoning mechanic, as previous brand new summoning mechanics have on occasion broken the game. For example, pendulum summoning or link summoning. I hope you guys are excited. Let me know what you think in the comments or contact methods that I will give you at the end of the episode. Also in Yu-Gi-Oh! News, new ban list in effect. Well, a new ban list went into effect this past week, and boy is it a doozy. Actually, too many changes, in fact, to go over each card and its potential impact for the game in a single episode. So I will only go over the ban and limited list changes this week. I will then go over the semi-limited and unlimited changes next week. First up on the ban list, we have Eclipse Wyvern. It is fresh on the ban list. Also fresh on the ban list is the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardici. On the limited list, we have first up Altergeist Multifaker, also Black Dragon Collapse Serpent, Salamandrate Gazelle, Tempest Dragon Ruler of Storms was originally banned and is now limited. White Dragon Weaverburster, Salamandrate Circle, Sky Striker Mecha Modules Multi-Rule. Terraforming was originally semi-limited and is now limited. Trickstar Light Stage, and lastly Metaverse on the limited list. It's a lot to unpack here. Looks like Konami is trying to hamper the Altergeist and Salamandrate combos with the changes that they made for that, as well as possibly trying to stymie the Sky Strikers, which have been dominating the top 8 lists of multiple tournaments of late. If you guys have any information on how you think these changes on the ban and limited list are going to affect the game and as a whole in the metagame, both your local and what you think the overall metagame is going to change because of these changes, let me know in the comments or shoot me an email or even record your own comments. I'll make sure to play them in the next week's episode. Again, next week I will be going over the semi-limited and unlimited list. Again, there's a lot here, really packed. So I can't wait to go over these. A couple of previews. Chaos Emperor Dragon Envoy of the End. fresh off the ban list from the previous format, is now semi-limited. We can only guess as to how that's going to affect the game. And Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, again, fresh off the ban list last format, is now unlimited. So we'll see how that works out. That's pretty much all we have for Yu-Gi-Oh! News this week. On to the next segment. In Pokemon news, Pokemon Sword and Shield. New information about gyms and Champions Cup. Trainers who are looking for more information about Pokemon Sword and Shield may want to delve into the game's website. The Pokemon Sword and Shield website has dropped some new information with various details for the game, which hits the Nintendo Switch on November 15th. One of the bigger updates related to the battling aspect of the game. The Pokemon Company already released information about the gym leaders and champion Leon. On the website, it showed images of players wearing a uniform when they challenge gym leaders. Players could choose the combinations of numbers for their uniform. And before trainers can challenge gym, they must receive endorsements in order to challenge gyms. Luckily, the player character and their rival Hop get endorsement letters from Leon to challenge gyms in the Galar region. Like most Pokemon games, there are 8 gyms for trainers to conquer. Once players complete their gym battle journey, they will have an opportunity to compete in the Champion Cup. Now, this is a tournament series where the tournament winner will get to challenge the league champion. The event is broadcast on TV for everyone to see, in-game. Now, this scenario might sound familiar in that the Pokemon anime has a conference tournament arc in every region Ash Ketchum and his pals have traveled. Since the Champion Cup winner gets to challenge the league champion, this might be going in place of the Elite Four, which is a challenge trainers would face before their showdown with the league champion. Another new element in the game is the aspect of sponsorship, as I mentioned. The website notes that some Galar corporations will sponsor the gyms and champion, which would explain the logos on their uniforms. The Pokemon team is really pushing the sport and battle aspect of Sword and Shield with these new elements, which may irk fans who prefer capturing Pokemon to partaking in competition. Some more information relates to version exclusives. Trainers already know that some leaders will be version exclusives. Folks will face Bay in Sword and Alistair in Shield, but the website confirmed some version exclusive Pokemon. Dino and Jangmo-O will be exclusive to Pokemon Sword, while Larvitar and Gloomy will only appear in Pokemon Shield. Now, this may influence some trainers who are going to pick one game over the other. Pokemon Sword and Shield is a little over 3 months away, and trainers still have plenty of time to decide which version they want to buy, or if they want to pass on this version and wait for the next game. My advice is to wait until the game comes out and make a decision after some time, or have someone buy it for you as a gift during the holidays. Or you could be like me and buy both games, which I will most likely do, just so that I can get you more information on the game. That's pretty much all we have for Pokemon news this week. On to the next segment. In Magic the Gathering news, the story universe of Magic the Gathering is expanding. 2 years ago, a novelist and as yet unproduced screenwriter named Nick Kelman went to work for Wizards of the Coast, the company that makes the popular collectible card game Magic the Gathering. Kelman's job, though he might not put it this way, was to write a grimoire, a Kabbalistic story Bible. Rules for Magic out of the rules for Magic, as Kelman says. The company needed that grimoire because it was going to try to cast a spell in the real world, to transform a popular, albeit niche game, complicated and nerdy, into a cross-media franchise. That has happened for comic books, for literature, even for toys. Now, lots of people would agree that existing franchises can turn into games, but can a famously intricate game turn into a story? That was Kelman's task. Make it reasonable to produce magic novels, magic comic books, even, and you saw this coming, an animated series on Netflix, produced by the people who wrote and directed the last 2 Avengers movies, to debut next year. And then maybe live action movies. Turn the universe of Magic the Gathering into a story universe. It's possible. Games are already stories, kind of, with beginnings, middles, and endings, and rules that govern their universes. Magic certainly has all of that. Invented by Richard Garfield in 1991 at Wizards of the Coast, which is now a subsidiary of Hasbro, Magic the Gathering is the universe of the collectible card game. Magic the Gathering is a complexified riff on the old kids' card game of war. Players compete by throwing down cards with numerical values for certain attack or defend abilities, partially controlled by belonging to a particular suit designated by color. Some cards can enhance or decrease the values of other cards by value of their own values or of floating rules written on the cards themselves. Buying more cards from an available catalog of thousands, with more introduced regularly, allows players to create reservoirs from which they build ever more usable decks. Business-wise, Magic is working. Bloomberg reported that the game brought in $500 million in revenue last year. Hasbro owns Monopoly and Scrabble, but Magic is its top game brand. The company is building out a new online version called Arena and an esports version. But the take just laid down is as sensualist as calling Dungeons & Dragons a dice game. It doesn't explain why 38 million people around the world play Magic the Gathering. Part of the explanation is in the art on the cards themselves, which are lavishly decorated by fantasy illustrators to represent individual characters, monsters, locations, weapons, magic spells, and other trappings of various fantasy subgenres. It gives gameplay an epic quality. You're not just playing a trump, you're giving an elf warrior the ability to telekinetically ward off fireball attacks from above or whatever. Now, none of that is story, though. Backstory maybe, but not narrative. Magic is like an operating system, and the cards are like programs, Garfield once said in an interview. In fact, in creating new cards, Kelman says today, the teams responsible for story continuity and the universe's timeline, led by a lore master, interact with the team that does game mechanics to make sure that a card's capabilities are in keeping with the overall world of the game. If nothing else, that ensures a card with interesting play aspects also has a cool name and good art. And Garfield was super right. It turns out in April of 2019, a team of computer scientists found that Magic is Turing complete, which is to say that it's a generalizable computer language. But again, not a story. So Kelman set out to codify one, or at least find a path. It turned out that over the last 25 years, the characters on those cards have developed their own fandoms, centered largely around a cast of planeswalkers, powerful sorcerers inside the game. And those fandoms have been supported by the official Wizards of the Coast website, which included house-written stories set in the universe. It was sort of officially sanctioned fanfic that evolved into an intricate, vast narrative canon, all but invisible to anyone not playing the game and essential to everyone who was. Underpinning all that were the 5 colors, white, black, red, green, and blue, that represent the different kinds of magic spells in the game. That heuristic, whether you want to think of it as suits of cards or Hogwarts houses, dictates not only whether spells are, say, more defensive or more aggressive, more telepathic or more physical, but also the personalities of the characters wielding the magic and, to an extent, those of the players who build their decks around 1 or 2 and occasionally even more of those colors. Now, Kelman turned that into what he calls a cosmology. That's the grimoire, the story Bible, quoting, "We don't have people going around saying, 'You're a red mage and I'm a blue mage, we must fight,'" he says. But we know the difference between being able to cast a fireball and reading minds. People's personalities are prism for magic. Now, you might be laughing, but some TV shows in the past few years based on other derivative collectible card games were too on the nose. In at least one, the heroes and villains literally throw cards at each other. Usually they turn into monsters or something. That wasn't going to work here. So far, the narratives that have grown out of the game have been a lot more complicated. Inside the game's story universe, the stories told on the website and over the course of the releases of new sets of cards, multiple strands of narrative came to an intertwined climax earlier this year. It was as big a deal as when the Marvel Cinematic Universe extruded Avengers. And now more is coming. A novel that advanced the story further debuted at number 5 on the New York Times bestseller list, and the possibility of its acquisition inspired no little urgency. There are comics. The fanfic on the website is now written by award-winning science fiction and fantasy authors. I don't know how you calculate the cosmological constant of a fictional universe, but this one is expanding. And as the story grows, it feeds back into the game. When one of those planeswalkers, Gideon Jura, died in that new novel, Wizards of the Coast released a set of 8 new cards commemorating his life and powers. The company called it a signature spellbook, classic Gideon-related cards with new art. You see how this works, right? The game can generate and absorb story. Quoting, "A game mechanism is a kind of cosmology, whether you want to recognize it," Kelman says. "We want to create a cosmology that honors the game mechanisms without literalizing them." Conversely, the new animated series has to generate a story, something that drives multiple hours of narrative from the game mechanic. As one of the show's writers, Jose Molina, said on a panel at San Diego Comic-Con, the writer's room didn't base its stories on gameplay, but at one point when they were trying to decide whether a certain character could use a certain magical power, they did realize that a specific card would, indeed, give that character that ability. They wrote it in. The idea of using a card mechanic to generate story has precedent. The Italian postmodern writer Italo Calvino generated an entire novel based on drawing from a tarot card deck. Games provide frameworks that miniaturize and represent idealized realities. So do narratives. That's not enough to make stories, of course, but in Magic, the characters are there, and Kelman has helped to codify how their magico-personal conflicts are baked in. The art on the cards, combined with stories on the website, has primed tens of millions of fans to want more. They'll all watch the Netflix show, as will I. And maybe the people who watch the Netflix show will go out and buy a deck-building starter kit. Quoting, "We're really trying to get ourselves into the headspace of, what if the narrative came first?" End quote, said Kelman. "We are expanding the narrative universe. It's never an easy task, but when it works, well, it's almost like magic." Also in Magic the Gathering news, Magic the Gathering announces new Throne of Eldraine set. Magic the Gathering is exploring a new world in its next set. Earlier this past week, Magic the Gathering announced Throne of Eldraine, a new set that seems to take heavy inspiration from fairy tales and traditional folklore. The new set will be released on October 4th, 2019, and will be set in the new plane of Eldraine, a world described as a mix between Camelot and Grimm's fairy tales. The new set will feature creepy new takes on classic fairy tale characters like Little Red Riding Hood, the Gingerbread Man, Snow White, the Little Mermaid, and even King Arthur. Of course, Throne of Eldraine is more than just a new piece of Magic the Gathering mythology. The new set will introduce some new changes to Magic the Gathering, specifically to booster packs. Throne of Eldraine will be the first set to have theme and collector booster packs. Theme booster packs will contain an increased number of cards of a certain color, while collector booster packs will come with 1 rare or mythic rare card, 1 foil rare or mythic rare card, 9 foil common or uncommon cards, 3 special frame cards, 1 ancillary card, and 1 foil token. The new collector booster pack will cost $20 to $25 per pack. Now you can check out some of the art from Throne of Eldraine at the comicbook.com link that I will provide, or in Magic the Gathering's official tweets, also on the site that I will provide the link to in the show notes. That's pretty much all I have for Magic the Gathering news this week. On to the next segment. Before we get to our next segment, a quick word from our sponsors. Hey everybody, I really do hope you love hazardous verbal waste. Did you know that you can actually get paid just for listening to this podcast? I know, it sounds insane, but it's true. We just discovered this free new app called Podcoin, and it literally pays you to listen to podcasts. Here's how it works. You listen to podcasts, and you earn Podcoin while you listen. Then you turn that Podcoin in for gift cards at places like Amazon or Starbucks. Or if you're a good person, you could even donate that Podcoin to charity. The more you listen, the more you earn. So here's what you do. Download the app right now on iPhone or Android, and I have a special code for you. Simply use our code HAZARDOUS and you'll get 300 Podcoin just for signing up. And if you listen to enough of us on there, you can get a cappuccino at Starbucks or an Amazon gift card on us. So go ahead and go listen to this podcast or virtually any podcast on Podcoin and sign up with code HAZARDOUS. I swear it'll change the way you listen to podcasts. In gaming news, Nintendo Switch Lite console's huge design flaw problem isn't going away. The Nintendo Switch Lite is the most affordable entry point for the Japanese gaming giant's most popular recent titles, but a widespread issue with original console's Joy-Con controllers could also make it an expensive problem waiting to happen. Switch owners on YouTube, Reddit, and Twitter have long described a problem that's come to be known as Joy-Con drift. Once the phenomenon kicks in, the Switch thinks its joysticks are being toggled even when the colorful controllers are untouched. Now, this results in maddening in-game ghost movements that can make games unplayable. Unaddressed, the Switch Lite could wind up being a $200 paperweight when launched on September 20th. The Joy-Con controllers on the original Switch are detachable, so if they break in any way, gamers can simply buy a new pair, for $80, but still. With the Switch Lite, the plastic controllers are attached to the handheld console, so serious Joy-Con drift would require you to buy an entirely new console. Nintendo has not provided a fix or even publicly acknowledged the drifting problem. The company has not responded to Inverse's multiple requests for comment, but the company could soon be faced with its moment of reckoning. Pennsylvania-based law firm Chemicals Schwartz Krenner and Donaldson Smith could soon file a class action lawsuit against Nintendo. The firm is now amassing user complaints, its site reads. CSK&D is investigating a potential class action based upon reports that the Nintendo Joy-Con controller for their Nintendo Switch gaming console can experience joystick drift issues. Specifically, it is reported that the joystick on the Joy-Con will automatically register movement when the joystick is not being controlled and interfere with gameplay. The issue is an ubiquitous topic of conversation in the major video game forums. Redditor Locus Ain't Bad posted about how their Joy-Cons became unusable after only 4 months on July 15th. The thread has since garnered more than 27,000 upvotes and 3,000 comments, with some users claiming to have spent more than $300 on replacement Joy-Cons alone. Another Redditor by the name Rainbow Python claims to have found the underlying issue with their faulty controllers after disassembling them. The user noticed a wearing in on its contact pad, the component that translates player inputs into game movement. Any faults with this crucial component and the controller can no longer respond properly to the position of the joystick. Now, since Nintendo has been silent on the matter, it's impossible to know if the drifting will affect the Switch Lite. This unknown has made many consumers online skeptical about the new handheld. The company hasn't indicated there would be any internal improvements beyond improving the console's battery. Nintendo could always address the issue quietly, but that will still run the risk of alienating potential Switch Lite fans who have experienced the drift firsthand. The hybrid console may be one of the company's most successful releases ever, but this issue could still wind up imperiling an otherwise beloved gaming system's reputation. Also in gaming news, my review of the Nintendo Switch Road Trip event. Now, this past weekend, Nintendo brought their Nintendo Switch Road Trip event to Seattle Center. Located near the base of the Space Needle in Seattle, Washington, the 3-day event showed off a lot of games, both currently available and some that are either just now available or coming soon. The line was pretty long, but as you wait in line, you can watch other people playing various games. As you enter the gaming area, you are greeted by a staff member who hands you a game passport. It's just a little postcard-sized piece of paper with 6 emblems on it. You need to play at least 5 of the games available once to get the first 5 emblems stamped. Then you can choose any of the games to play, even ones that you've already played, to get the 6th emblem stamped. Once you get all 6 emblems stamped, you scan the QR code posted at the entrance or printed on a separate flyer explaining the event to bring up the login page for your My Nintendo account. If you don't have one, you can register a new one. Now that brings up a second QR code that the event staff then scans to verify you've completed the game's passport. Then you get your choice of several different Nintendo Switch branded items. My wife and I started out with a round of Mario Kart, with me beating the competition by a large margin. We next headed over to Splatoon 2, where we were thoroughly beaten by the other team. We next headed into the trailer itself, where we had an opportunity to try Mario Maker 2, Let's Go Eevee, and Smash Bros. We swung by Mario Kart for one more race, then took a few pics at the Super Mario photo op station, then headed out. On the way out, we presented our game's passports and QR codes, both of us choosing the Switch-branded Cinch Sack. I'll try and include some photos of that Cinch Sack and the photos we took at the event in the show notes. The Mario mascot standing outside was busy with other guests, so we didn't really get a chance to get pics with him, but all in all, we had a great time. The tour's next stop is in Columbus, Ohio from July 25th through July 28th. For more information and a full list of dates and locations, you can check out the tour locations page, and I will include a link to that in the show notes as well. That's pretty much all we have for gaming news this week. On to the next segment. In movie news, Valkyrie will officially be Marvel's first LGBTQ superhero. Kevin Feige and Tessa Thompson both confirmed during Comic-Con that Valkyrie will find her queen, possibly in Thor: Love and Thunder. It's official. Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie will be Marvel's first openly LGBTQ+ superhero. Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige recently confirmed that the character will have an explicitly queer relationship of some kind in Marvel's forthcoming Thor: Love and Thunder, the 4th MCU movie centered around the hammer-wielding superhero played by Chris Hemsworth. Many have been wondering when the blockbuster franchise would introduce an LGBTQ character, including Thompson herself. The announcement is all the more significant because Thompson is openly bisexual. The answer is yes, Feige told IO9 of Valkyrie having an LGBTQ storyline. How that impacts the story remains to be seen. With that level of representation you'll see across our films, not just in Thor 4. Feige confirmed what Thompson herself had teased during Marvel's Thor: Love and Thunder unveiling at Comic-Con Saturday. As new king, she needs to find her queen, Thompson told fans in Hall H during Marvel's massive panel. That will be her first order of business. She has some ideas. Keep you posted. Thompson's Valkyrie debuted in Thor Ragnarok and became an instant fan favorite. In March, Valkyrie re-emerged on social media following the release of Captain Marvel, with many MCU fans pushing the studio to bring the two superheroes together on the big screen. Both Thompson and Captain Marvel star Brie Larson have shared fan art depicting their characters embracing, with some fans even shipping the two characters romantically. Of course I would love the chance to work with Brie, Thompson said at the time. We're like women's women, so the idea of getting to do something that little girls are excited about and people that identify as women feel excited about is cool. Valkyrie is bisexual in the comic book source material, a fact Thompson has said informed her portrayal of the character from the beginning. Now, Thompson has long been an outspoken proponent for inclusion in Hollywood. As an active member of Time's Up, the actress recently vowed to work with a woman director in the next 18 months and encouraged others to do the same. Thompson spoke publicly about her sexual orientation for the first time in June of 2018, saying in an interview that she is attracted to men and also to women. So having a bisexual character portrayed by a bisexual actor, that's huge for Hollywood. And I would like to see more of this. People with disabilities portraying characters with disabilities in movies. It's pretty much all I have for movie news this week. On to the final thoughts. Before we get to our final thoughts, a quick word from some other shows that you might find interesting.
Looking into the darkness, you can feel your heart racing, the heaviness of sorrow and dread to take control, and the voice inside you says, "Don't go in there." Now join your hosts, Ashley Ernie and Bill Reed, as we venture down the weird and mysterious.
Find the Don't Go In There podcast on your favorite podcast listening app, and remember, don't go in there.
What's up, everybody? My name's Tim from the Shut Up and Dad podcast, and I hope you're enjoying this show. If you're looking for some laughs after you finish listening to this episode, come check out Shut Up and Dad. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and your favorite podcast platform by searching Shut Up and Dad, or simply head to our website, shutupanddad-podcast.com, where you can listen to episodes, read our blog, and find links to our show. That's shutupanddad-podcast.com.
Well, here we are at the end of yet another episode of Hazardous Verbal Waste. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. We certainly covered a lot in this episode, everything from the new Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime being announced and the updates to the Banlist for the game, to new stuff for the game lore for Magic the Gathering, and even my personal experience with the Nintendo Switch Road Trip event. I know I had promised coverage of the Boffer group I am covering for a news article I'm writing, but conditions at the event were not right to record, so I will try speaking with the organizer of the group over the phone and have that recording ready for next week. If you have any comments or suggestions regarding anything covered in this episode, or if you have any ideas for a future episode, there are several ways to contact me, either directly or through the show, and I'll be sure to read your emails or play your recordings on a future episode. And as always, please make sure to review the show on your podcatcher of choice. You can reach the show at hazardousverbal@gmail.com, through the contact page on hazardousverbal.com, on Twitter at Tosisama, that's TOUSISAMA, on Instagram at hazardousverbal, and on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Amino app at Shiro-chan. You can also leave a voice message through Skype. The Skype ID is Ichimoto1. Until next week, this is Shiro-chan, signing off. Peace.